The world is changing rapidly, and countries are moving away from the weakening dollar and looking to establish their own reserve currency. Countries such as the BRIC nations, formed by Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. While at the same time, the US is seeking to establish a new central bank digital currency, also known as CBDC. And on today's video, we will explore why you need to be paying attention to this, because it not only threatens our financial freedom, but also our personal liberties and our property rights. But first, I would like to remind you that if you're planning on relocating, whether that is across town or across the country, please let me assist you in finding a trusted realtor in that area. I can also provide you with a real estate market analysis for the area that you're planning on relocating to. Just go ahead and click on the link below to begin the process, and I will be in touch with you just as soon as possible. In 1971, the U.S. abandoned the gold standard with the excuse that America had to curb inflation and to prevent nations from overburdening the system by redeeming their dollars for gold. The result was that the dollar have lost or has been devaluated by 85% since 1971. In addition, the Federal Reserve Bank's quantitative easing policies has resulted on an astronomical national debt by the amount of $32 trillion as of today. In addition, BRIC nations are moving away from the US dollar as the world reserve currency. Their most important summit in history is set to happen at the end of August in South Africa, where their new BRICS gold reserve currency will be announced. At the same time that the BRIC nations are cooking up their new system, one of the most significant steps taken by the Federal Reserve Bank this year has been the implementation of a new global standard that aims to standardize how payment messages are sent worldwide. So on March of this year, 2023, the transitional moment for banks began as SWIFT, which was the old way of settling payments used by financial institutions around the world by most countries. They set up this new system called the ISO 20022, which promises to be more efficient and more cost-effective. But in reality, it's just the first step towards a digital infrastructure that's going to be implemented, called the Central Digital Currency. The World Economic Forum and the US government will tell you that this new system of centralized digital currency and blockchain technology will help combat inflation, will simplify transactions through smart contracts and tokenization of real estate and other assets. They tell you that this new system provides transparency, lowers criminal activity, and they will bet you into this system by depositing Fed coins into your account. Universal income will incentivize users to engage and be a part of this system. So one of the problems that we're going to face, besides losing a lot of our financial privacy rights, a lot of our financial freedom and personal freedom, will be the potential loss of our property rights. The centralized digital system will result in the central powers of the world who will have jurisdiction to regulate all transactions. That it will give them the ability to implement rules that will directly impact how much digital money you are able to transact based, for instance, on your carbon footprint. We have heard this climate agenda coming down from the World Economic Forum, and which is all over the place, how they want to diminish everyone's carbon footprint. So there's also talks of establishing something called the social credit system. So when your assets are registered or as a digital token or land registry, for example, that means that your ability to own assets will be subject to a new set of rules, and your ability to use the digital currency will also be subject to some rules that they will set. So, and this is in contrast, by the way, with the main characteristic that Bitcoin technology, as we often hear from Bitcoin enthusiasts, is that the decentralized nature of this technology. However, once this technology becomes centralized and falls under the authority of a central government, coupled with the potential implementation of the social credit system, it will mean that we are basically going to be under a very, very centralized, tyrannical global government. I wanted to point out this article by the Insider about China's social credit system. It's from last year, from the end of last year, but it's very relevant. It states China's social credit system ranks citizens and punish them with throttle internet speeds and flight bans if the Communist Party deems them untrustworthy. Basically, three things about it is that China has been rolling out a system that ranks its citizens based on their social credit, and people can be punished if they drive badly, buy too many video games, or steal. And it's not unified. It's not a unified nationwide system, but China plans on eventually making it mandatory for everyone. This moral ranking system basically will monitor the behavior of this population and rank them based on all their social credit. It was first announced in 2014 as, quote, an important component for the component part of the socialist market economy system and the social governance system. Governance is a word that we hear often, especially coming from the World Economic Forum, and aims to reinforce the idea that, quote, keeping trust is glorious and breaking it is disgraceful. The rankings are decided by these actors: China's economics planning team, the National Development and Reform Commission, the People's Bank of China, and the Chinese court system, according to the South China Morning Post. The system can be used for individual people, but also for companies and government organizations. The private sector, including the tech world in China, has their own non-governmental scoring system that they implement. So basically, also the article states that the plan is for the social credit system is to eventually be mandatory and unified across the nation, with each person given their own unique code used to measure the social credit score. I also wanted to point out at this report by the U.S. Department of Treasury, entitled "The Future of Money and Payments," and it was presented on September 22nd of last year, 2022, and it states that on March 9th, 2022, President Biden signed an executive order on ensuring responsible development of digital assets. The report reviews the current U.S. system of money and payments, including developments in instant payments and stable coins. So there are several things that I found disturbing on this report and downright terrifying. I want to share this snapshot of one of the paragraphs in there, having to do with transaction monitoring and recording, keeping mass surveillance, basically, and the sanctions on U.S. citizens. Okay, so the first snapshot that I wanted to show you from this report is this one. It has to do with transaction monitoring or record keeping, which is basically mass surveillance. It says, in the near term, a U.S. Cbdc is not necessarily to preserve effectiveness of sanctions. Fundamentally, the effectiveness of U.S. sanctions relies on the central role of the U.S. dollar and U.S. global financial services and leadership. As previously stated, neither foreign CbdCs nor private sector issued digital assets are likely to have a significant impact on either of these factors in the near term. Over time, however, it is possible that a U.S. Cbdc could help to maintain U.S. leadership in the international financial system and thereby contribute to preserving the effectiveness of sanctions and other financial measures to address threats to the national security, foreign policy, and economy of the United States. In addition, individuals or entities transacting or holding a U.S. Cbdc could be subject to U.S. jurisdiction and thereby subject to U.S. sanctions. So basically, that means that everyone can be subject to sanctions. Of course, we all are if we are involved in criminal activity, but the rules are going to be changing once it gets implemented, which means that we are going to be more looked at by the government. And when it comes to taxation, that's going to be a whole nother topic. which basically they are going to find anything in order to sanction individuals. The other snapshot I wanted to show you has to do with the public-private partnerships, which they say is necessary to implement CBDC. If you remember, public-private partnerships by definition is fascism. It's a system of government control. It's a system of ultimate control and surveillance, which states that the payment system should support innovations from the public and private sectors to meet the various public policy goals of the United States. In turn, innovations from partnerships could provide building blocks for other technologies, similar to how the internet was first introduced as a public sector initiative. Current payment systems, including ACH, have also benefited from public-private sector cooperation, particularly with respect to incorporating new functionality and standard setting. So I want to bring your attention to an article about this very problem, because what's going to happen is that governments, this is already happening as a matter of fact, governments use corporations to implement their policies. If they, for instance, don't agree with something that the citizen is talking about, or do not agree with something that an activity that they're involving or political affiliation. So I just want to bring your attention real quick to this article. And again, it has everything to do with the social credit system. It says coming soon, America's own social credit system. The new domestic war on terror, kicked off by the riot on January 6th, has prompted several web giants to unveil predecessors to what effectively could become a soft social credit system by the end of this decade. Relying on an indirect hint from DC, our social betters in corporate America will attempt to force the most profound changes our society has been during the internet era. China's social credit system is a combination of government and business surveillance that gives citizens a score that can restrict the ability of individuals to take actions, such as purchasing plane tickets, acquiring property, or taking loans because of behaviors. Given the position of several major American companies, a similar system might be coming here sooner than you think. Last week, PayPal announced a partnership with left-wing Southern Poverty Law Center to investigate the role of white supremacists and propagators of anti-government rhetoric, subjective labels that potentially could impact a large number of groups of people using their service. PayPal says the collected information will be shared with other financial firms and politicians. Facebook is taking similar measures, recently introducing messages that ask users to snitch on their potential extremist friends, which, considering the platform bias, seems mainly to target the political right. At the same time, Facebook and Microsoft are working with several other web giants and the United Nations on a database to block potential extremist content. So anything either from the left or from the right can be, or from the middle, it can be considered potential extremist content, or just content that the government does not necessarily want anybody to see. The actions of these major companies might seem logical in an internet riddle with scams and crime. After all, nobody will defend far-right militias or white supremacist groups using these platforms for their odious goals. However, the same issue with government censorship exists with corporate censorship. Is there a line? Who draws the line? Will the distinction between mundane politics and extremist be I will know when I see it scenario? As former Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart described obscenity? If so, will there be individuals able to unilaterally remove people's effective ability to use the internet? Could a Facebook employee equate Ben Shapiro and David Duke and remove his account? The implications of these crackdown efforts would be significantly more broad than just prohibiting Donald Trump from tweeting at 3 a.m. Young people cannot effectively function in society if blocked from using Facebook, Twitter, Gmail, Uber, Amazon, PayPal, Venmo, and other financial transaction systems. So this kind of gives you the idea of the potential scope of the social credit system under construction is enormous and has huge ramifications. So in conclusion, I want to say there's a few questions that come to our mind. What do we do to be prepared for this new global financial system that's being rolled out? How do we navigate through a system of financial and personal surveillance? How do we protect our property rights? These are really, really important questions that we should all ask ourselves. And rather than just panic, we just need to find ways to be able to go through these scenarios. My best advice would be to learn as much as possible on what is taking place, oppose it in every way we can, such as opting out from the universal basic income. That's going to be the most difficult thing that most people will be facing, being able to opt out of this incentive. Is going to be the main initial component to incentivize people to participate, making sure you take steps to have everything you need for you and your family. Of course, your assets, your shelter, food, water, energy. Those are all, things that we all need in order to make it. Thank you for joining me today. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And for more insightful content, please share as well. And until next time, take care and stay tuned for more economic and real estate news.